Greetings, YouTube. This is Rhett at Rolling Forward. Thanks for joining me today, and I'm going to continue today with a little bit more about the day of the accident, and in fact, we're going to start at the scene of the actual automobile accident. Um, I'm laying on my back in the dirt, in the sand, in the desert. Um, the accident has just happened, but I have no memory of it whatsoever, and I still don't. Um, I was sitting in the back seat of the car, sitting immediately behind the driver, and then suddenly I was laying on my back. It was quiet, with the exception of some quiet murmured voices, some people walking around slowly, it seemed to me, their feet crunching in the sand. Um, Someone was next to me. I could hear voices murmuring. I could hear then a siren. It seemed to me the siren was winding down. It seemed close by, and I vaguely recall a red light flashing as on an emergency vehicle. But at this point, I am really dazed and confused. Um, I woke up. Um, I'm looking upward, but it's dusty everywhere. That's my main impression. I'm waking up, passing out, waking up, passing out, and I do have some memories during the time I'm awake and conscious, and then it's later. It might be moments later, it might be minutes later, it might be a long time later. I don't know. Well, I do hear the siren, I think, the red light, I perceive, I think, and then I wake up and I'm inside the ambulance. We're moving, and there's someone else in the vehicle with me. There's an ambulance person. Uh, I don't know if it was an EMT. Remember, this was 1968. I don't know what kind of qualifications ambulance drivers needed at that time. And there is another injured person in the vehicle with me. One of my uh, 6 friends from the car. There were 7 of us in total. And there's me and one other person in the ambulance. Um, During the drive, and I found out later, it was not a very extensive drive in terms of distance, but I would again still wake up and pass out. When I was awake, the sounds were very, very unpleasant regarding the condition of the person in the vehicle, in the ambulance next to me. I don't know who that was, but that person was gravely injured, and the treatment and the sounds were quite gruesome, and I'm going to leave it at that. So we arrive at this small desert hospital. Um, there is an emergency room of sorts, and I remember being inside, and I begin speaking with a nurse who's near me, and I'm asking, you know, how are my friends? What's going on? And I slowly become aware that I'm struggling. I don't know why I'm struggling, but it slowly dawns on me that I can't really move. Um, and the nurses, and I don't know if it was a doctor or what person it was, came in next to the nurse and said, you know, they wanted my full name, they wanted the names of the other people in the car, and as it happens, most of the people in this car had a tattoo of some kind. We were a group of, well, I could say typical, perhaps adventurous, uh, young adolescent males behaving foolishly. But I was noting Uh, okay, somebody has a tattoo of such and such, and well, that person is, and I would name them first and last. And I went through, I could just about recall them all, I think, and the names, and and again, in and out though, in and out, and that went on for some time. It seemed to me like I did it multiple times. You know, so and so has a tattoo of a that. So and so has a tattoo of a this, that kind of thing. Um, Finally, I was struggling more, and I asked the nurse. I said, you know, pick my hands up, put them in front of my face where I can see them, and push them together. Well, she did. And I remember my impression was my hands were a very, very yellow color. I mean, almost as if I was jaundiced. I was not, of course, but probably from the shock, I would imagine, the constricted circulation resulting from the shock condition. But my hands were very, very yellow, and I saw her push my hands together, um, and I couldn't feel it. And I kind of knew then uh, what was up. I this thinking to myself, you know, I thought you've got a spinal cord injury of some kind, and you know, then I passed out. Um, didn't really have any more memories from that hospital, and I woke up next time or another time, and I was in an ambulance again. My impression was that it was dark outside. I'm not sure. And there was another passenger, uh, another patient in the ambulance. And this ambulance ride, I found out later, was a little longer in length, perhaps maybe an hour and a half, something like that. It was dark. Again, there were uh, sounds of the other patient in the ambulance being tended to. There were some sounds. Uh, I remember waking up once, turning my head, and throwing up. There was not a lot of volume. It just came out, and I told the attendant in the vehicle, I'm gonna, and then I just turned my head a very little bit because I don't know if I couldn't, or if I knew I shouldn't, or if I was told not to, but I just turned my head a slight and threw up out the corner of my mouth, you know, wanting to get out, wanting not to choke or swallow, and then I just passed out again. The next time I wake up, the ambulance is coming to a stop, turning and maneuvering, and it is at uh, the larger uh, general hospital emergency room, and it is an area designated emergency room, so they had much more services. I'm getting out, being taken out of the back of the ambulance, and I see my father uh, walking up right next to me, and I think I see behind him, 10 or 15 feet, my mother, who they had come from the other direction, as it were, a little further west from their home, and I was coming generally from the east. Um, you know, they got there shortly before the ambulance, and you know, I saw them, and then I passed out. I remember it was kind of pleasant temperature, and I think it was late evening, but I'm not sure. Was wheeled into the emergency room and put on a table, and I remember a very, very efficient emergency room doctor came up, and at one point I remember being rolled onto my side, and I think it was for x-rays. I'm not sure, but I can remember when I was rolled that it hurt, and I yelled, you know, kind of loud, out again. Uh, Woke up back on my back, looking up at the ceiling of the emergency room. Things going on around me. Again, questions. Uh, what's my name? What's the names? What are the names of the other people in the car? And as I was being finally, it seemed to me, a long time, I don't know how long it was, wheeled out of the emergency room, going up to the ICU, or intensive care unit. As I was leaving the emergency room, I asked the doctor, uh, what's wrong with me? And it was a kind of a little bit desperation. It was kind of loud, not quite a shout. But I said, what's wrong with me? And the doctor looked down and said, well, what do you think is wrong with you? And I said, I broke my neck. And he said, you are right. And then I was wheeled away from him and passed out again. I woke up upstairs. It was much quieter, much more calm, and I think that's where I will leave it today. And we will continue with this part of the story in a subsequent video. But I'm trying to, kind of do different aspects and have some kind of chronological logic as we move forward to be as understandable as possible about my state of mind, about my physical condition and state at this point. And I want to thank you for watching. And please do click subscribe and click like. And I think that's it. Ciao.